Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara. We talk about TV shows here. The year is 2022 and the name of the show is Babylon 5. This is season 4, episode 6. It is called Into the Fire. So full spoilers for the episode as always. And I am left baffled by where we're going after this episode. So we'll talk about that a bit later. But yes, we have this big confrontation that Sheridan and his fleet have engineered for the Shadows and the Vorlons to interact, and also a lot of big Londo stuff going on as well on Centauri Prime to talk about. Yes, so that's definitely felt like a lot of things came to a head in this episode, and we're kind of entering a new chapter of the show.
Like the whole show. Really.
I almost had this joking feeling at the end. I'm like, wait, is Tara getting her wish? Is the rest of this season going to be just like the build up
just
to the
wedding?
Yeah, like one episode's going to be about Delenn getting her dress. One episode's going to be
Well, I mean, we haven't talked about Psycor in a while, and they weren't really pivotal in the fight like we thought they would be. So I guess there's the Bester stuff, and then I suppose like the Centauri were basically trying to take over all the worlds for a while, so I guess getting them rehabilitated and back into the I mean, if I was to guess, it feels like they're going to have to establish what the new status quo is, and like what all the young races are going to be like now that this conflict is over. Yeah, now that the Vorlons have left
and Shadows,
and the Shadows have left. Well, the Shadows have left Earth. They were helping out with all the stuff on Mars and the governments, and, even Babylon 5 is its own thing now. So, like, now that the Shadows are gone, can they, like, reconnect? Can we have a marriage between Babylon 5 and Earth again?
But I do suspect that there's going to be conflict of some kind. There's no way we're going the rest of the season without there being...
Oh, it's not going to be just... utopian peace from here on out. And a wedding.
I can't imagine so. Plus, we got season 5 to go as well, so that's another big thing to deal with. But I guess it's fascinating to do this at this point in the show in this way, because it does.
Plus, so early in the season.
It is. It's very strange. It is a little bit strange, but again, this show has surprised us before with having big pivotal turning points, which feel like season finales in the middle of seasons. It's done it a few times at this point, so I guess we shouldn't be shocked. And if this is where the story is, and this is where we are, then this is what they're going to tell this part of the story. It doesn't matter where we are in the season. To hell with it. So here we are. Yeah. We'll dive in. I guess we'll start with the Londo stuff first. I think that's just kind of neat to get out of the way, and then we'll talk about all the other stuff, because that leads to the bigger ideas and whatever else. So I will say the first scene with Londo, where he sort of comes like storming into the palace room and
as prime minister,
and the way he's sort of like giving orders, like, okay, we have to get all the heads of all these departments in here now, and blah blah blah. And he's like telling the guy to go do it, and then he's like, "Why are you still here? Go!" And I was like, do you know what? This scene is doing a very good job of making it feel that Londo was born to do this, because he feels like he's good at it.
Yeah, I mean, he's been wanting something like this for a long time, like to be taken seriously as a leader. But also, I mean, he's telling the guy to go and basically fire everybody who worked for Emperor Caligula, and he can, like, so that he doesn't get stabbed in the back or something by someone who might feels like he still has some loyalty to him. And yeah, there's that. And then he like immediately sits down in the emperor's chair and stuff like that. And the guy's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I don't know, it just felt natural." I was getting a little bit of vibes of like maybe this power is going to get to his head, and he's going to be kind of like the other emperor.
Do you know, I actually feel the opposite, bizarrely. The vibe I got from Londo in this episode is that he's actually a much better leader than the previous emperor, and part of that may be because...
Well, that's true.
Part of that, I mean, not just because that he was so awful, like, obviously that's a fair thing to say, but part of that, I think, is because of what he's went through and the growth he has had through his dealings with Jakar and through the mistakes he's made. Not that he's completely redeemed for all those actions necessarily, but I think the way he's taking things seriously and the way he's sort of approaching things with... Sure, he's still using some scheming, he's still outthinking his opponents and the people that he's trying to trick in the episode because he needs to outsmart them, but it does kind of feel that there's more of a noble intention. And I think the fact that later in the episode, when they think they've dealt with the Vorlons because they've removed all the shadow influence. But then they're like, no, I mean, you were so touched by the shadows that you're linked to them now, so they're still coming for you. The fact that he immediately went, Veer, you need to kill me to save our people. I mean, it didn't take him long. He immediately was ready to jump on the sword.
Oh,
for his people.
I knew he would be also. I was just saying, like, in this scene, in the beginning of the episode, where, like, he's giving out orders, he's stepping into the Emperor's role in the Emperor's chair and, like, barking at people, and then, like, he takes a hostage and then he kind of does something crazy with them. I'm like, oh, he's doing the head thing. So, I mean, it was kind of set up in an earlier season, but I was getting vibes of that. But then, of course, like, you're right. Like, I immediately turned around by the end of the episode.
I think all of the barking at people felt really like a healthy version of it to me, bizarrely. It felt like just someone, like, whipping them out of shape.
Get rid of all these clowns.
Like, we're a proper government now, and we're going to do this. We're going to take care of business. Like, I do appreciate they put I mean, sometimes I think shows and movies overdo it sometimes by putting in little flashbacks to remind us of things, because I feel like don't treat us like idiots. But I love that they'd put this one in because it was so specific to exactly what Veer said that I think they did need to remind us. Like, this is.
I didn't think it needed to be there. Honestly,
I mean, I wouldn't say need, but I liked that it was there. Which is a distinction I think is worth making, but especially since Veer did the little wave, like I don't know, would I have remembered that he said he was going to wave at his decapitated head? I don't know if I'd have remembered that detail.
I don't know if I remember but I remember the head on the spike.
But obviously that's a great payoff, and Veer was right all along. And it's this thing where Veer is treated better by Londo in this episode because he's sort of come to terms with like what Veer is to him. You know, we've talked a lot over the course of since the start of season 1. Basically, we've been talking about how Veer's his conscience, and it's like he's more accepting of it now, and because he's making slightly better decisions. He's making more noble decisions. He's kept to his word with the Narn and like what he was going to do for them. Like all these things feel like they have built to a place where things have changed in how he treats Veer, and it kind of makes sense in a thematic sense as well as just like a general. He's slightly better as a human, or Centauri, I guess. For lack of a better word.
Know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking, though, with the flashback that in Veer, it was like, man, he did lose a lot of weight.
Oh, sure, yeah. You could actually see it side by side, basically, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, his head was much rounder.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I believe it was for health reasons, but good for him either way. Like,
it's an impressive amount, actually.
He's in better shape.
Compare them, like, back to back like that.
Yeah, obviously the other big scene with Londo, which I actually thought was fantastic, was where the head of investigations or whatever
Scotland Yard.
Yeah, whatever his title is, he comes in and he's like, I have to tell you something, and it's like, shouldn't you have brought up at the meeting? It's like, no, you'll appreciate this is more of a private matter. This is not something for the round table, as it were. But just to say, hey, so you lost a loved one like last year. Who was poisoned, and he's like, oh yes, a deer. And I love that this one character who was in one episode in season 1 has been so important like multiple times throughout the show. It makes it feel less like a throwaway episode at the start where he's in a little bit of a romance. This is kind of nice, but he's like, yeah, like, you're right, like she was poisoned and it did come from Centauri Prime, and all these details, but the one thing you didn't have right was who ordered it. It wasn't Rifa. And he's like, well, who did it then? Who was it? And he's like, it was Morden. And
your associate, Mr. Morden.
And he throws him out, and there's this realization that this was a ploy by Morden, because there was a result of that. Like, at that point, Londo was at a bit of a crossroads with how he was reacting to Morden, and that did kind of drive him more towards him again to like get back at Rifa. So he got played, and he realizes it, and he does his best Tommy Wiseau and wrecks the room. And I say that because
everybody betrayed me. I'm fed up with this world.
And I'm not saying that to make fun of it. I actually think the scene's really well acted, and I think the way he's holding his heart is he's like crying and like, yelling. Like, I think he does a good performance, but that's my go-to now when I think of someone like wrecking a room in anger. Is I think of Tommy Wiseau in the room throwing the TV out the window.
At least he didn't start humping her dress.
Yes.
I gotta watch that movie again.
Yeah, but Londo's genitalia, like, he's got like 6 of them all in his stomach, right? So it'd be more.
So it makes sense that he would have, that he would do it that way.
Yes. Yeah, they actually have their organs in the stomach. Yeah, Tommy Wiseau, secretly Centauri. Well, that's what we figured out today.
He's definitely an alien.
But
He's proof that we are not alone in this universe.
I thought it was well performed. In the follow-up where they bring Morden in, and Morden's looking back to himself. He's been healed. He's back to regular Morden. And
Back
he's
to regular smug asshole.
Oh, he's such a cocky little shit, which is why it's so satisfying, right? Because Londo says, like, you made a deal with the previous emperor to put all the ships on this island, and that we're going to have to go back in that. And Morden's like, you can't do anything about this. I mean, what are you going to do? Blow up the island? And do you know how satisfying it is that Londo goes, now that you mention it, it just pulls out a trigger.
Yeah.
And we see like
after
a nuke
after
go
they
off.
kill the shadows that are behind him.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize they had weapons that could do that.
Do you know what's so good about this is that it really shows how far we've come, that like he now knows that there's shadows always with him to protect him, and he's planned for this, and it shows you why he is actually, despite all his despicable decisions here or there is a reason why he is kind of good at this. He is good at learning to play the game, and you just hope that his reasons are a bit more noble, and they seem to be, virgin. It's particularly when it comes to his own people. The fact that now he's more about saving his own people than he is about getting revenge or like growing the empire and like belittling others. Like his hatred of the Narn and that conquest, like that has shifted now to like, no, kill me now, Veer. It will save our people. Like, stab me now. If you're like, no, I've already murdered the emperor. I don't know about the second one. Come on, too much murder.
Did you think there was a chance that Veer was going to kill him, and then Veer would like step up into the role of leader?
No, because I still believe the future we saw is still on some level coming to pass. Even though the shadows have left, I feel like they're probably going to come back at some point because they're sneaky.
But it would have worked with the prophecy, though, that he would be in charge for a little bit, and then maybe Veer would take over after.
It would,
maybe not after the death of one of them.
I still don't think Veer's quite ready yet. I think that's like the journey he's on. We're still seeing is him like getting to that point where he is ready to take those responsibilities, and he's not, because he's already much less nervous and bumbling than he was back in season 1. He's already changed so much, and he's taken a stance. He's taken a moral stance in multiple things over the years, but. There's more to do. Obviously, so he thinks he's going to die. I actually really like the shot of like the eclipse almost of like the Vorlon ship like covering the sun. I thought it was a really nice like ominous touch, because obviously there's a lot of charm in the effects for as goofy as they are by today's standards, but every so often they do actually do something that's stylistically really nice, even if the effect itself is a bit dated, because obviously it's just 90s CGI. But I thought this was one of those stylistic moments where I really liked the mood and the feel of it. So yeah, it was good. Obviously, the reason why it doesn't happen though is because at this point, the Vorlons are getting their asses kicked by the first ones that have all shown up to help. So they call in like all Vorlon ships, like, come and help now. Like, so basically they're saved by the skin of their teeth. So it's actually inadvertently Sheridan and the trickle down effect of everything he's doing that saves Centauri Prime.
It was pretty cocky of Londo to not consider himself as somebody who was influenced by the shadows.
I know, yeah. And
I was thinking that right away. I'm like, well, you didn't get all of them.
And I think that plays to like, as much as he's improved, he's still Londo. He still has this arrogance, and he's still, I think that plays to his character.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good. So I really liked all the Centauri Prime stuff this episode. I thought was excellent. All the Londo and Veer stuff. I think their characters have grown and are so intricate at this point that everything with them feels like layered and feels earned. And for the first time in the entire show, Londo having the upper hand in Morden, which leads to his death as well, but and to the point where Morden's like yelling, and we shouldn't point out, Morden does yell out something to the effect of, the shadows have friends that will come if you deal with them, there'll be others.
Allies,
yeah. So I wonder if whoever these allies might be, if that's something we're going to deal with maybe down the line, but very curious. Because maybe we assume it's the shadows who are on Centauri Prime in that future scene we saw. What if it's just this other race that's using their ships or something like that? What if it's not actually the same species that are operating them?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be possible. But no, neat stuff. All right, so everything else though. So Ivanova's with Lorien. They're looking for the others. Cole's not there yet. Cole doesn't show up till later, but he does like show up in her. It's like, oh, I swapped places with Lorien. I thought you might need an extra hand.
She's like, okay, a bit of a downgrade, but fine.
Yeah, Lorienne's giving her all this philosophical, like, mumbo jumbo, really opening her mind up to new ideas at the start of the episode.
They found like 6 ancient ones or whatever.
I
First ones.
I loved how big and like monolithic all their ships were compared to the other species. Like, they're all huge. Yeah. They felt like big deals. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so the story of this episode, you know, all on the action, which is, you know, fun, and you got explosions and ships and all that, and is that we end with both the Vorlons and the Shadows agreeing to leave and go beyond the rim of the known universe or whatever.
It's time to leave this world.
And basically let the young races take control, because Delenn and Sheridan proved to them that they're beyond giving a shit and taking a side, because like ultimately, you know, we're pawns in your game. And that's the thing, like, they're not for each other. The idea that's brought up in this episode, when they're, you know, they're psychically both kind of in conversation. Delenn's talking to the Shadows, Sheridan's talking to the Vorlons. Or yeah, I think it was that way around, but either way, it doesn't really matter. But the idea is that no, they don't actually want to wipe out the other side, because they want to like win and they want the other ones to survive, so that they've lost and they know the other guys won. Like, they want them to feel the defeat. So it's not about annihilation, it's about proving the other one's wrong, but no, we were right. Mm-hmm. So it comes across as kind of petty at a certain point.
Petty and endless.
And endless,
because they're always just going to come back and one up the other.
So, you know, the others are like, no, we're not doing this anymore. We're done with this. And shockingly, this actually was a very satisfying way to end this, where they agree we're going to leave, all right? But they want Lorienn to go with them, and he agrees. He's like, yeah, that's my time. It's time for me to go. I will go with you. Because they're, relatively speaking, more directly his children, in the sense that, you know, like humans and Minbari, they're like great grand species at this point to him. Mm-hmm. But because there's a conversation he has with Ivanov as well about the immortality of his species, and how his first species were pretty much immortal because it just seemed like the way to do it, and that there just wasn't a lot of births. Like, you know, there was a couple born each year maybe, or something like that. Mm-hmm. But then it was like, no, but life has more value if it's short, and people strive for more if there's no eternity. And he kind of implies that
I would take eternity though.
I know you would. But he kind of implies that the idea of love is kind of born out of life being short, and it was something that they maybe didn't have, or at least not in the same way. Because he talks about how it's actually a gift. This delusion that love can be everlasting is something that humans and other species like humans have. But he doesn't. It sounds like a really cynical thing at first when he's saying it, but the way he kind of ends his little speech is like, you know, you should be thankful for this wonderful delusion. It does kind of sound like, no, that this like sort of almost made up thing that you've given this name to is such a powerful thing. Like, and it's almost like talking about the idea of creation itself. Like, if you create an idea and it becomes so important to people, it doesn't matter at a certain point that it was just like a, you know, a thing. You know, it wasn't a thing to begin with. The idea itself and the way it spreads is powerful, and that applies to a lot of things. It applies to politics, it applies to whatever. You can apply that to anything. But the idea that love, which is such a core thing that human beings and storytelling talk about and use as motivation, and you know, it both is and isn't a real thing. It is in the sense that, yeah, we all know what love feels like, at least most of us do. So some poor people may never feel anything resembling love if they have a really hard upbringing and never find anyone to love them. But like,
I would imagine you'd have to have some other kind of influence also, like some sort of disability to not be able to do it, or some inability to register what feelings are.
but you know, we all recognize it on some level. You know, it's not tangible in a physical sense, but it's tangible, and we all know it, right? Or most of us know it, at least. So no one denies that it is a thing that exists, and no one denies that, you know, it does drive us to do a lot of things. You know, whether we're talking romantically, whether we're talking about parents for their kids, whatever it may be. Like, the idea that you will go, you know, take a bullet for someone, or you will sacrifice yourself for someone, and this sense of nobility, and the idea that makes us kind of special compared to the ancient ones who maybe didn't have quite that same thing. And maybe that's why they can afford to be this everlasting petty wars, because ultimately they don't have the same stakes. Yeah. Admittedly, I mean the Vorlons and the Shadows are younger, and they aren't immortal like Lorien is. I mean I should make that clear as we're talking about this, but they are different from humans. Like, things have moved on from them. So all really fascinating stuff. It was kind of, it was a bit of philosophy is what I'm trying to say, and a bit of grandeur science fiction and all that stuff, which can be fun to get into. But yeah, ultimately they'll eventually have to move on and realize that your time is up and it's time for these other beings. And for all we know, moving beyond known space and like going out there is not so much like die, it's more just like going to a new location. But it definitely sounds like you're talking
going
about
into the great beyond.
Yeah, it does sound like moving on to an afterlife, the way they talk about it. It does have that kind of feeling.
Honestly, it is very Lord of the Rings. It is very much like them leaving on the ships, the elves leaving and the wizards leaving to leave it. It's the land of man now.
Yeah, but here's the thing: wizard and elves are lame, and spaceships and aliens are cool. So
I would agree with you, unless Tolkien's writing it. Then it's great.
Look, I'm never.
You wouldn't have this show that you love so much without it.
That's true. I mean, I wouldn't how much storytelling would we not have if people weren't inspired by Shakespeare? Doesn't mean that I like reading or watching anything Shakespeare related. Still bored out of my mind. I can accept that there's important stepping stones to get to the things I care about and things I like. It doesn't mean I have to love them. Doesn't mean I have to worship them. That's just part of the stepping stone to get there. True. That's okay.
We wouldn't have Moonfall without Independence Day.
I mean, the same guy made both of them, so yeah, that's quite accurate. It's more accurate than any other example you could probably come up with. But no, like, how much science fiction do I love because Star Wars was... Alien would never be made if Star Wars wasn't a huge hit, right? And probably countless other things, but that's like one of the first things to come to mind. And,
sure.
I don't care. I still like Alien more than Star Wars. I'm still going to praise it more than Star Wars. I'm still going to hold a special place in my heart.
They take place in space, but like there's not really a lot that connects them, just other than like a production company was like, hey, this made a lot of money. Here you go, Ridley Scott. Make your space movie.
I know, that's what I meant. That's exactly what I meant. Is after Star Wars, everyone wanted to make science fiction. So that's why things like Alien got funded.
Yeah. And Star Trek the motion picture.
And Star Trek, yeah. So... Yeah, I'm not saying there's a tangible link thematically or in style or anything.
Finger gun.
What's that?
I said, I can't believe I did a finger gun and winked at the camera.
Star Trek does funny things to you.
Put that on the poster.
But yes, so I mean, what did you think of the stuff where like they kind of each get like telepathically like linked to one of the other?
I thought the visuals were good, and I understand that like at least the people in their like radius also got to see what was happening, and the arguments were good. It's like, Sheridan's bringing up, hey, you're like two parents asking a child to choose which parent, and like, what if we just don't want either and just don't want to be parented anymore? Like, we're old enough now. Just leave us alone. Let us live our lives and be gone already. I mean, it's good stuff.
Yeah, and I got the impression that all the other ships got to see this as well, because I think there was one line where it's like, yes, they all saw the message, or they all like...
Well, I know, like, Lanier's there. He's like, I can see them both.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know how far that spreads. Like, the Psychor over on Earth or Mars, do they hear?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if that's... But I got the impression the fleet got to see all this.
Yeah.
And, because then when stuff started happening before it calmed down again, like, one of the Drazi ships, like, basically... that takes a missile for the White Star with the Sheridan and
I suppose that's true. So I guess that means all the ships do know what's happening, because why else would they do that? Yeah,
so there is a good sense of like everyone coming together, and it's like the idea that they're all united into one big like civilization or interstellar system, if you will. I was for a second I was like, what's the space version of interstellar? I think.
Nailed it.
I think it is anyway. But like that like gives it this vibe that yeah, maybe this is the proof that we have moved on. I can't wait to see more of Jakar and like what the Narn are up to now, and because
there was no Jakar in this, huh?
No. And Londo did mention that Veer's going back to Babylon 5 and that Londo might accompany him because he maybe wants to get away for a bit. So maybe we will
he
have.
Probably needs to mend some broken bridges.
I do wonder if like Londo, Jakar, and obviously Delenn would, because Delenn was always pro Babylon 5, but I do wonder if these people now will all like come together and say, no, we need a place like Babylon 5, and they'll all sort of come out and support it together. Like I do wonder if we go down that path where they all see the value in it.
Yeah, otherwise the whole universe would have succumbed to the madness of either chaos or order.
Yeah, and they've all grown so much as well, since the start of the show. It'd be fascinating to see that those like them all sticking up for this place where a lot of them were very like confrontational about it in the past. We
still have the Garibaldi plot.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we do still have the Garibaldi plot.
I was thinking, like, where was Garibaldi this episode? That's the thing we need to resolve.
But, given that this the future with the Shadows and Centauri Prime, and I know I speculated there was another race, but I wonder if like the Shadows are being kind of sneaky here and are intentionally sort of like letting the Vorlons leave, but they've actually left some people behind to like rise up. And so who knows where we're going to go with that Garibaldi thread. But we still have the planet below. I suspect we will see some more Psychor, although I don't think it's going to be just like whatever they were up to, they're still up to. Or maybe they are going to still try to do whatever they were doing before, but I suspect the fallout... Yeah,
because we did see it with Morden in the Bureau 13 stuff, but like it seemed like it was really ominous, and then I don't know if anything really came from it other than Bester kind of like doing his own thing for a bit. But
as you said earlier, though, like all their support they're getting from the Shadows is presumably gone now, so the question, what we might see from them now is more like, okay, what's the fallout of this, and what do they turn into now? What are their motivations and goals now that things have changed? So I don't know where we're going with some of this stuff, but there's definitely a lot in this world still to explore. But it is kind of weird that it does feel right now like the main conflict has been resolved, but
maybe it'll just be 20 more episodes of just partying? Everybody getting along?
That's not how the writing works, but need goals, motivations, conflicts, drama.
We'll see.
Set up and payoff.
This show doesn't follow the rules.
Suspense. All these things. Not that I'm saying a hen night episode with Delenn and like a stag like night thing with Sheridan wouldn't be fun as a pair of episodes.
Oh, I suppose.
What was with that tone? You're the one who wants wedding focus shit.
I wasn't quite sure what you were saying. Can you say that again?
Oh, sorry. Maybe I'm using British phrases here. So,
yes.
Hen night and stag night. So, what do you call those things?
I don't know what that means.
Hen night, bachelor and bachelorette party? Is that what you call them?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't realize I was speaking a different language to you there.
Some things I need a little translation.
Is it, you never call it a bachelor party. Is it a bachelorette party?
Yeah.
Is that what the women's version is called?
That's correct,
Okay,
yeah.
alright, okay. Yes. I don't know why they're called a hen night. I don't know what it is, but something about women and like being related to birds or types of birds as like a nickname is just like a thing. Chick, hen.
I suppose it's because hens tend to stay in a group like, and they're always making cooing noises at each other like they're chattering. I don't know why you guys get to be stags. That's cool. That's way cooler.
A bit of useless Scottish trivia. Hen is also just a slang word for girl here. So like you'll particularly older women will refer to young girls as hen. They'll say, "Hey hen," or
Interesting.
Yeah. It's not an insult. It's a nice, it's just a nice enough greeting.
Okay.
But But yes, it's kind of, I guess it's like the female equivalent of someone saying son. Here, yeah, there you go. A bit
Okay.
local language trivia for you. Glad you enjoyed.
Good to know.
Yes. No. There's a lot of big scenes. Obviously, we end the episode with Delenn and Sheridan sitting, looking at back. They're on the way back to Babylon 5, and it's in the window, and it does kind of feel ominous, and he even says, this is the start of the third age, which that was the intro speech way back at the start in season 1. It was the dawn of the third age of mankind, right? Like that was the thing. So
I can still hear Sinclair's voice.
yeah. You know what? I'll say it. I still think his intro's the best one in terms of.
I think so too.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just because his voice is a bit more like commanding, so he just sounds so good.
It is calming. It's a good narrator voice.
Yeah.
And Boxleitner had a little bit of trouble, I think, in the beginning.
Yeah.
Ivanovos was just kind of strange because it was ominous and dark.
Yeah. Yeah, Sinclair's intro is still my favorite. I mean, I think her dialogue was good in terms of what it was doing, but I think Sinclair's is still the most fun. And
I'm still not
best.
into this one for season 4. I just think it's kind of chaotic.
Bit chaotic. I agree. Yeah. I wonder what season 5 is.
Cole's in it.
Yeah. I mean, not much. I mean, obviously we mentioned he transferred ships and he was with Ivanova by the time they were in the fight, but there wasn't really much.
No, I was worried. They're like, oh man, they got them together again. Where's this going? Well, they're still together at the end of the episode. Like they didn't go back to the ship or to the station. So maybe the next episode.
Well, they're just gonna wake up in bed together.
Maybe, I don't know. Like the first one's like, you need to have more love in your life, and she's like, I stopped doing that a long time ago or whatever. Back when Talia left. Her one true love.
Yes, our one true love. I mean, we know she's had male suitors before, so clearly she's flexible, but
yeah, good for her.
Yes, I won't make any jokes just now, but I promise you this: if and when it happens, there will be Pike jokes.
Oh my god. I hate it.
Right now, Tara has Pikeal annoyance.
Oh my god. It's already terrible.
You can put it in front of any feeling, really, and it works.
No.
No. Pikeal envy, Pikeal anger, Pikeal happiness.
Oh boy.
Pikeal happiness makes a lot of sense, actually.
Alright.
But yes, so and there was a scene earlier on with because Lita's around, of course. Lita's helping with the telepath stuff. She's kind of instrumental in channeling the two beings into Sheridan, and because we were talking about Sinclair a minute ago, talking about Sheridan and Delenn. And they also established early on the situation that Centauri Prime is in. It's like, oh well, it sucks that we can't go and protect them, but we have to pick the planet with 6 billion versus the planet with 3 billion people. So
plus the Centauri have been kind of dicks for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I do like that there was an effect though. Basically they inadvertently still saved Centauri Prime, or at least Londo.
Yeah.
I mean, no, they saved the whole planet, because we know they were just going to blow up the whole planet to kill Londo. So it was the whole planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a good moment. Yeah, there's a lot of like fist pumping kind of moments in this, and some really good kind of like sweet ideas to round out a lot of these plots that we've been having.
Mm-hmm.
And I really can't get over the satisfaction of Londo getting to be smug with Morden. That was
good. After
delightful.
Morden tried to be smug at him.
Yeah. Yes. Because that's the thing about being smug, is eventually your time is up and someone will be smug on you.
I wonder if he's still smiling with his head on the pike.
Yeah, you see it from behind, you don't see it from the front. And obviously I assume that's just like that'd be R-rated. So you have to sort of obscure it and just have it from behind. But yes, yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, this is obviously a super important episode, and I feel weird that we're going a little shorter in this versus some other episodes. But in some ways, because it is straightforward in doing all these endings, that there's actually less to dissect compared to other episodes.
I wonder what's gonna happen. Well, this happened. It seems to be all settled now, which is good because now we can focus on the relationship, the one that we like.
Do you think we're gonna see Delenn meet her in-laws and vice versa? And...
I don't know. Minbari have such weird traditions.
Is it going to be like Troy in that on Trek? Is like well, the wedding's going to be naked, obviously, right? Like we do this naked. Sheridan's going to be like, what?
Yeah, you want to be my Amzadi? You got to be naked.
The Betazoid traditions.
I'm sure there will be all sorts of fish out of water culture clash moments between them.
Oh, there was a fun moment in this one actually where like he's relaying the message to Ivanova to haul ass and get into the fight, and Delenn just gives him a catty little response like, I will tell her, as you say, haul ass, although it does not seem like a dignified way to give the order as the captain of a White Star fleet.
I think she said position.
Yeah, but there's a lot of smirking. It was, in fact, actually, I'm loving this running joke that Ivanova can't speak Minbari properly because she it turns out she tells everyone to fire all weapons, and then she's like, no,
hell
stop.
Means continuous fire.
Stop it, everyone, ceasefire.
Ivanova is such a great character. That's why she deserves better.
Better than Cole. I mean,
that
hell.
Was implied.
Well, think about it though. I mean, I don't know if this is an American thing, but the threat that if you're bad, Santa will just give you a lump of coal for Christmas. Like, if one of us getting a lump of coal.
Aww. They have no chemistry.
She's not getting the I don't know, the hot new action figure that she's been dreaming of all year. She just gets a lump of coal.
Oh boy. Should just had Talia.
Well, she did. It was heavily implied she did.
Like, in a relationship.
Oh, sure. Well, things got in the way when Sleeper Agent was activated, and then they had to...
Yeah, she had to go do movies or something. Whatever.
It's always sad when someone leaves a show, and I don't know if this is a specific reason, but oftentimes it'll be because they think they've got better offers or they've got movies they can go do, and then it's like you never hear, like it's like, oh, I've never seen you in anything, so clearly it didn't work out that well.
Yeah.
Because there was an actor on Battlestar Galactica who left, I think, at the end of season 2. He wasn't like a huge character in the show, but he was like a B tier character, and he left, and apparently it's because his career is starting to blow up, and maybe there's all these movies he's going to go do, and I have not seen him in anything. Like nothing. So
well, a lot of people felt that way about Terry Farrell leaving Deep Space Nine. We know better now, though, that she was put in a very awkward position by some pretty shady producers, or at least one really bad producer.
Yeah, but to be fair, she did also have like another long running TV show that she was in, and
yeah, she did Becker. But a lot of people thought that it was, this kind of lines up. Maybe she left the show for that, but no, she just got another job because she's a decent actress and good-looking woman.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you think about it, because obviously she's in the skin tight like catsuit things they make them wear on the Star Trek shows, and then like she goes to Becker. I'm like, no, I'm going to be someone who runs a small diner who wears whatever the hell I want. I'm wearing a baggy shirt whilst I clean glasses and talk to Ted Danson. And the blind dude who had like a little newsstand in her.
I would be surprised if that was like part of her contract agreement.
Yes.
I have one stipulation.
Yes.
I cannot be just a sex object for horny nerds.
Yes. Maybe 4 seasons in, I'll do an episode where you can put me in a dress for a romantic plot, but that's it. That's the line. Like, I'm in jeans.
Boy, you really like that show.
And I mean, I watched a fair bit of it when it was on, but like, I'm not thinking of any specific plot lines here. I'm just,
okay.
I'm just sort of saying, generally speaking, I'm sure there was an episode at some point where she had to dress up. Maybe her and Becker went on a weird date or something at some point. I don't know. But yes,
I'll take your word for it.
And the receptionist was in the hit film The Blob, 1988.
Oh, that's such a good movie.
And then went on to be in the Saw movies, which is less notable because they suck. But yes, so there you go. That's Babylon 5 Into the Fire. A great episode. A lot of big thematic stuff. And I'm excited to see where the show goes next. And it is funny that there was no Garibaldi this episode. Technically, there was no Franklin, although he did appear, as one of the Shadows of Vorlon's. As one of those figures. But him himself technically was not in the episode. So. And obviously no Jakar. So very curious to see where we're going next.
Yeah. Pretty big day.
And it's wide open because, I think generally the theme of them starting up, whatever the new status quo is obviously something they're going to be doing. But other than that, it is so open for whatever they're wanting right now. And I'm sure it was always planned. I'm sure wherever we're going next was always the game plan. But I don't know exactly what that is. And that's kind of exciting. So... There you go.
I agree.
So let us know what you think of the episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications and all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_Fuzz for channel updates. And all those things do help us, but of course you can also support us financially over at Patreon. Isn't that right, Tara?
That's right, Peter. If you enjoy our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/SmilesFuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you'll get bonus episodes for the shows we do, and if you donate $5 per month, you'll get access to these Babylon 5 reviews 6 days early, and some other shows you get a week early and get to vote and all sorts of fun stuff. Be a part of our community. Thank you.
There you go. So once again, thank you for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Babylon 5, and much like Londo, much like Jakar, much like Sheridan, and every other potential leader or ruler in this show, don't give away the homeworld.